Hello and welcome to another episode of the Lebenspraxis Podcast, where we explore practicing living a life of purpose, actions and decisions and ask what is the good life. I had some time between the last episode and this episode, so I didn't really find the time to record an episode. We had our most intense workshop month for the year with the 30-day intensive and 3 workshops that were happening also during the intensive, 3 extra workshops. And I will upload some reflections on these workshops that me and Mariana did, where we go into what is important for us or what came up in us during these workshops, what do we notice about them. And I think it will allow some insights into our work, into these workshops, and for the people that have been at the workshops, I think it will be nice to in a sense, reflect with us, like to listen to it and then have your own thoughts while listening. What the German listeners might have noticed that I recently posted on my website and on YouTube video and text, or actually audio and text, called Der Waldspaziergang. So this is a 2-hour conversation. It's more a monologue of mine, but Maxi helps me in my monologue with a few questions here and there. And this goes for 2 hours. It's in German only. It's also available as a text, which was quite a bit of work to make 2 hours of talking and free talking, like not like without any notes in my hands, to make a text out of that is actually readable and at the same time still has a bit the feeling of a transcript. And this was the main reason was this text, that it took me a while to actually upload it. So to have everything finished, ready for the publishing. It actually took 2 years from when it was recorded. But nevertheless, now it's here, and I'm very happy that this open loop is closed now. And maybe there are some requests for you to translate it into English, the text. And I might do so, or maybe I won't do this by myself. Like maybe I ask Oscar, who's translating my text, but maybe also someone from the community that is fluent in both languages wants to do a community service and translate it. And if someone wants to do this, you can write to me. And I think I'm very happy to offer something for you in return, like coming to a workshop or something like this. Just make sure you can provide quality. That's very important for me, because my texts are not always so easy to translate into English because of the nuances of the German language. So you have to have a good experience with both languages. Otherwise, translation might be off. All right. Let's start the actual topic of this podcast, of this episode, which I want to call the fragmented life. I noticed recently that the word fragment, or as the form fragmented in German and English, comes up very regularly. It caught my eye at some point, and then my attention or my awareness always spotted it. And it spotted it very regular, the mentioning of fragments, and this in connection with talking about how our life nowadays is. So what is this notion of the fragmented life? What is this idea? My feeling is that because of several things that we are doing nowadays, or how things are done or can be done, the feeling can arise in the sense of being many pieces of different puzzles, or to have in you many pieces of different puzzles, but they don't really fit together as one puzzle. You might try to put them together, but they might create just a distorted image in the end when putting the pieces together. And I think there are a few reasons for this feeling of fragmentation that we have. One, I would say, is the huge distance, the huge distances that we cover nowadays, also in our communication, plus the amount of people we communicate this. I have the feeling that this is one part of it. I don't know how big this part is, but this is one part of it. So, in contrary to having the same people day in and day out that you see, and there's not even a question if you see them, it's just a given. A life nowadays can be lived also, and this is definitely more a thing of the, let's say, digital workers, can be lived in a complete chaos, in a sense of whom you see and when, and if you see people. And in the last 2 years, this has definitely gotten much more. That people work from home, and in a sense, people could spend days probably without really seeing people in person that they actually know and interact with on a deeper level. Because you might go out and go to the supermarket and blah, blah, blah. But it can very easily happen if you are busy, if you're living alone and you're busy with your work, that you might just have a phone call with a friend or something like this in the evening, and you meet your colleagues via Zoom, and you actually don't really see anyone that you are really connected with. And this clarity of seeing the same people every day, and in a sense, not just your immediate family, like if you have a family and you live together with your children and your partner, but also like the people you work with, your friends. This can become such a complexity nowadays, no? That we all have our calendars, and then it takes like several messages back and forth to find a time to meet. And now in this 2 years, 2020 to 2022, with so many things closed, with like sports clubs not being able to train properly, and all sorts of things that are recurring things, like every Tuesday I'm going there to play soccer and I meet my soccer group there. This has been all very much disrupted. But not just because of this, but also because of other factors. For example, the clubs have been also disrupted by the idea of fitness flatrates, something I find highly sus. In Germany, I don't know if they operate also in other countries. There is one big company that is offering this fitness flat rate, where you have an account and then you can go into all sorts of gyms in, I guess everywhere in Germany. I'm not really sure actually. It's relatively affordable. I think they have different tiers. Like you can pay different levels and then go such and such often during the week. But the thing is, you are not bound to a certain gym. And it's not just that there are normal gyms in there, with the machines and this stuff where you anyway do, in a sense, individual training and there's no instruction. But also there is lots of yoga studios. There is CrossFit boxes. There is, I think, dance studios. There's all sorts of things. Like, it feels like almost everything is in there. So it creates the possibility to decide after your workday where you want to go. Yeah, okay, sometimes you work until 6, sometimes you work until 4. And according to this, you can decide, if you live in a place where there are lots of possibilities, like the center of Berlin, then you can decide where to go today. This sounds very nice, no? Like you are very flexible. But on the other hand, if you are jumping from one thing to the other and never really commit to one place, even if it's a place without instruction, even if it's just a gym or a gym. No other thing comes in mind. Gym, like it doesn't matter if it's a normal fitness gym or a climbing, like bouldering gym or something like this. Yeah, even that does something with you if you have your place where you regularly go and where, in a sense, you feel at home and it becomes part of you to go there. And in Berlin, there are 10,000 yoga studios. And you can even, before there was something like this fitness flat rate, I know that people did this yoga hopping where they just did the free class that sort of every yoga studio is offering, the free intro class. And you can basically for 1 year, I think, do yoga in Berlin completely for free if you do this yoga hopping. What a pathetic pastime to do, no? To decide you don't want to pay for anything, but you just want to abuse the system and then do yoga with it. How schizophrenic this is. Like, you are interested in this path to enlightenment, but then are too much of an imbecile to realize that you need to commit to a process that is happening at a place to actually move forward. And you cannot all the time change places, because all the places are approaching the process a bit differently and are working on a different place at the process, most likely. So hopping from one place to the other, or what people also do, they come here to my group class and they say, yeah, and on this day I have this training, and on this day I go there. This is not very intelligent. Rather, the better option is to go for a few years there and then for a few years there, but not to do 10 things at the same time. You fragment yourself too much. Yeah, it's like you become, how to say, opaque. Yeah, it's you like a ghost a bit. Nothing concrete. Hands just go through you. No one can touch you if you live such a life. And another thing about the fragmented life, I think, is the hastiness. The hastiness that we are in nowadays. The haste that drives us in our actions. The fact that nowadays people walk quicker than, I don't know, probably also 30 years ago, but very likely 200 or 300 years ago, it's quite likely that people walked slower. There's a relatively high pace of walking happening in many people's lives, even if they are not walking anywhere. And people are constantly late to things, constantly have deadlines, are overdue and are rushed, and there's a lot of social pressure, because hastiness can come from different sources. No, it can come from you are outside and the rain is pouring down from the sky and you're not dressed properly and you hasten to find shelter. Very immediate reason. But in our society, very often the hastiness comes from the pressure of the other people. They demand to have something at a certain point. And it also comes a lot from having too much on our plates. From saying yes too often, too regular. You need to learn to say no in order to be whole and not made into hundreds of pieces of different puzzles. You need to decide. And that's hard. That's hard. For me also, it is very hard. This clear no and decision, and also if you are not a psychopath, then it's not nice of a feeling to tell someone, no, it's impossible, like we cannot meet, or I cannot do this for you. I'm sorry. I just have too much on my plate already. It's difficult. So we have to learn how to communicate it well and honestly from the center of our being. so that the other person can also understand. Because we demand so much from each other, but on a superficial level also, it seems. So to slow down a bit, this is an act of courage, immense courage nowadays, to walk a bit slower, to drive the car without hastiness. Not slower than what is allowed. Obviously, you don't want to create a destruction in the flow, but there are different attitudes in when you drive the car. You can do it relaxed, or you can do it in hastiness, and often in the actual speed of arriving somewhere actually makes almost no difference. And from too much saying yes and lots of demands coming in, there can be a huge amount of open loops in our life. What is the open loop? An open loop is, I use as a word, I'm not sure if it's a good word. Maybe there are better ones. I'm happy for suggestions, or maybe loose ends is a better word. But let's stay with the open loop. So it's the task that is opening, a to-do that is opening, that you're not closing, that is still hovering open. Yeah? You are somewhere, you are at home, and you realize you need milk. So either you go directly to the supermarket and buy the milk, or not. And if not, then there is an open loop hovering above you. And because we have so many open loops nowadays, many of us, at least, we are a bit like a storehouse in that sense, like with this huge shelves and this, how do you say, in German you say ants to them, yeah, this forklift, I think you say, the forklifts that are driving through the storehouse and putting things in, taking things out. Yeah, it seems like to me like a huge logistical task to actually manage all these open loops. So how would be a life where we try to keep more immediacy with what's happening and reduce the open loops? Difficult. For me, an ongoing experimentation, because things are so often so context sensitive, in the sense that there are things that you can only do at a certain place or with certain people or with certain tools or objects, and at the same time your mind or other people that you encounter or are coming up with tasks and to-dos all the time, that one solution would be to say no to most of it. Must be, actually. And another thing is to manage your loops very well. They stay open, but you manage them well with systems like getting things done. But also the ability to practice the ability to close a loop directly, like to follow through with something. Because what also happens to us is a lot of switching of our tasks, no? That we lose the drive and we need to switch to something else. And I know from observing myself also how difficult it sometimes can be, especially when there are tasks that are very long, or tasks also that are very annoying, let's say. Yeah, it can be something that maybe lasts only, that it takes just 30 minutes to complete, but because it's such an annoying task, you have several times during this 30 minutes the feeling you want to switch to another task, you want to change what you're doing. Yeah, or you just have something big that takes a long time. Maybe it takes a whole day, but maybe it takes days and weeks to complete. And then to just do this one task, obviously is impossible. Because you need to sleep, you need to eat, you need to drink, you need to do all these basic things. And then there's obviously also always tasks that make sense to do in between, because otherwise everything will get out of balance too much, in a sense. Yeah, but this unease in us that comes up when we stay very long with one thing, this like will to change to something else that can happen. It is interesting, no? I mean, they're highly addictive things where you don't want to change. But many of our life tasks are not, of the actual things that we want to do, are in a sense not so addictive. Where is this coming from? No, I ask, like, where is it coming from that it's hard to stay with something for a long time? Why this jumping of the yoga studios? Why this difficulty to write long texts over several weeks? Why this switching? Why do we switch so often from one thing to the other thing? A bit like the waves throw us around in the ocean. And why do we quit things and not follow through, and thus become fragmented, heaps of fragments that we went through having done a little bit of this and a little bit of that, having tried this and so on? Why is this for some people so difficult to stay with something? They feel they need something new before they have actually really dived deeply and created a strong relationship with whatever the enterprise is. The fragmented life. I'm interested in your thoughts, my dear listeners. Let me know via email or via the YouTube comments or via my Patreon page, whatever contact variation. All right. Thank you for listening.